We've got new and actually somewhat mysterious developments in the Russia probe this morning. Special counsel Robert Mueller is looking to give 5 potential witnesses immunity to testify in Paul Manafort's upcoming trial. But here's the mystery. We don't know who they are because Mueller also asked a federal judge to keep those 5 names under seal unless they're actually called to testify. Trump's former campaign chairman is currently in jail after having his bail revoked last month. Jury selection in the first of his 2 trials set to start 1 week from today. NBC News investigative reporter Tom Winter joins me now. So what do we know about this latest development?
Okay, so this is what's called a use immunity deal, Chris. And basically what it means is that anything that they say on the witness stand, if they're called to testify, will not be used against them in any sort of future proceeding or any sort of future criminal case or any case. So basically they have immunity the second they step on that witness stand to testify truthfully and accurately. And even if it's incriminating against them, that testimony is struck from any future proceeding. So it gives them immunity.
Immunizes them.
Thank you very much. It gives them immunity moving forward. So that's the advantage for the people that are going to testify.
But we don't know who they are, and we won't know, right, unless they take the stand.
Testified. That's exactly correct. The other thing that I want to point out is they technically have to testify to things that Manafort has been charged with. So I know there was a lot of speculation yesterday about what could they say, what could they indicate. Well, it really is going to be pretty tightly narrow in scope as to the charges that Manafort already faces here. So this is really a situation where I think if people are expecting some sort of a bombshell development to come out of this testimony, it's possible, but really it has to be towards the things that Manafort is actually charged with.
Yeah, Manafort's lawyers wanted this trial moved. The judge essentially said, doesn't matter where you go, right? Everybody knows what's going on here.
Exactly right. So they argued 2 things. One, that there's a tremendous amount of pre-trial publicity. Obviously, we seem to talk about this case every single day. And that there's also a lot of interest in the Washington, D.C., Alexandria area where this trial is going to be held. The second thing that they argued is, look at the voting records from the last election. Most people in this area where the jury is going to be picked from voted Democratic. So they wanted to move this towards Western Virginia to the Roanoke area, so that they could have a voter base there or a jury base there where the vote is much more 50-50. These things almost never succeed. Manafort's
the judge basically said, you know, you're not constitutionally allowed to have a split jury, half Republican, half Democrat, or, you know.
Exactly.
It's a jury of your peers.
And the other thing is the judge said, look, we've got an exhaustive juror questionnaire here. We're going to voir dire these jurors. We're going to talk to them. We're going to interview them. And the judge said, look, if I find that we can't find unbiased jurors to be put on this jury, I'll reconsider it. Yeah. But really, these motions almost never succeed.
All right, Tom, thank you. Let me bring in Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor. What does it signal to you, Glenn? Why would Mueller ask for immunity for 5 potential witnesses, whoever they may be?
Well, Chris, let me say, first of all, that grants of immunity are pretty common in criminal trials. And let's use one of the more usual scenarios. Let's assume that there is a murder that's committed, and it's committed late at night in a dark alley, and there's only one witness. And that witness was selling crack cocaine at the time he observed the murder. What would happen if that witness were called to testify in the homicide trial? He would be asked, sir, what were you doing at the time you observed the murder? And he would have to truthfully testify, I was selling crack cocaine. So that would incriminate him because the government, the prosecutors, could turn around, use that statement against the witness, and bring a charge of distributing illegal narcotics. That's why prosecutors will secure grants of immunity for witnesses, so they can feel comfortable testifying fully and truthfully, even if some of that testimony includes crimes they may have committed. That use immunity guarantees that the statements the witness makes at that trial cannot be used against him.
And not surprising that they would keep their identities secret, right? Because especially if you have someone who went to jail because he was charged with witness tampering, you don't necessarily want these folks to be known or even just to be harassed, right, in a situation where you have such a high-profile trial.
Exactly, Chris. And, you know, there's another thing. Because Bob Mueller has sought grants of immunity for 5 witnesses, it may be that the prosecution will only need to put 2 of those witnesses on. So the identity of the other 3 immunized witnesses would never have to be made public. And if I can, let me just talk about how this might play out in Paul Manafort's trial. And against the backdrop that I just explained, Paul Manafort, among other things, is charged with bank fraud. Let's assume that when he was filling out his application for the loan, he fraudulently included information that maybe overstated his assets or understated his debts and liabilities, and the bank manager basically was aware of it, covered it up, and granted the loan anyway. That bank manager could very well have a Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, so Bob Mueller's team would secure immunity for that bank manager so he or she could testify at Paul Manafort's trial without fear of reprisal.
Let me ask you finally about all these requests. And again, these requests not unusual to move the trial, as Tom said. Also, we know Manafort's team wanted the trial date pushed back. We're still waiting to hear from the judge on that. Do you think that's at all likely? And is there anything out of the ordinary about all these requests?
There's nothing out of the ordinary, first of all, with respect to a motion to change venue. That is, move the location of the trial from Alexandria, Virginia, to another jurisdiction farther outside the Washington, D.C. area. In my nearly 30 years as a prosecutor, I have never once seen a judge grant a change of venue motion. It just doesn't happen, particularly in a case like this where the publicity is not just nationwide, it's worldwide. And so I don't think that's unusual. I also do think that Judge Ellis will continue to deny motions to continue the trial, and we're going to see this trial kick off on July 25th.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.